Hello, everyone. My name is Samuel. I am 24 years old, and I'm from a small town in Mexico. Today, I want to tell you how I learned English in just 6 months, without any private tutor, any special class, or using old, useless methods. If you're frustrated with learning English, don't worry. I was in the same situation. I know exactly what you're looking for. Someone who is guiding you step by step. So, if you listen to my full story, you'll know how to improve your English step by step. Let's dive in. I had a big dream to study business in the United States. In my town, many people see that dream as too big. The town where I grew up has dusty roads and quiet streets. My family is humble. My parents work hard as farmers. From a young age, I helped them in the fields. I studied well in school and always imagined a bigger life. When I was 22, I heard about a scholarship for undergraduate studies in the U.S. I felt my heart jump with hope. I thought, finally, a chance for me. But very quickly, I learned there was a big problem. I didn't speak English. The scholarship committee required that I know English. They needed proof that I could read and write in English well. Unfortunately, back then, I could barely say a few words. I remember the day I got a reply from the scholarship office. I was sitting at our old wooden table studying some English words from a book. Then a message came on my phone. It was an email from the scholarship program. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside, I read these words. Your application is incomplete. You did not meet the English language requirement. My heart sank. I had worked so hard on other parts of the application. I cried a little. I felt shame and disappointment. But through my tears, I made a promise to myself. I will learn English. I will do it myself in 6 months. I set a date in my mind. Exactly 6 months from today, I will speak English. I will learn it well enough to apply for the scholarship again. At first, I felt overwhelmed. How could I learn a whole new language on my own in half a year? I had no money for private tutors or special classes. I did not even know how to start. But I remembered something my father once said. When life gives you lemons, make lemonade. I decided to use the resources I had and work hard every day. On that first day of my new mission, I made a plan. I told my parents, Mom, Dad, I will study English every day for 2 hours. I won't give up. My mother smiled and said, We believe in you, Samuel. My father just nodded, proud and a little worried. I woke up early the next morning at 5 a.m. The air was cool and quiet. I sat at the kitchen table with a notebook and a pencil. I decided to start with the basics. First, I wrote down simple English words that I already knew, like hello, thank you, good, and day. I practiced pronouncing them loudly. Then I listened to a Spanish-English children's song on YouTube to get my mind used to the sounds of English. At first, everything sounded strange, but I smiled as I tried to sing along. Every morning, I went to our little town library. It was a small room with 3 old computers and a few shelves of books. There were only a handful of English books, but I checked out a beginner dictionary and a children's storybook written in simple English. I would sit at the library table and look up new words one by one. It was slow at first. Sometimes I stared at a sentence and felt like giving up. But I remembered why I was doing this. I remembered the hope I felt for my future. So I kept going. I used free tools. Every day I watched one short video lesson on my phone's internet. I found a YouTube channel that taught English for beginners. The teacher spoke slowly in English and Spanish. She showed pictures. I watched and paused the video often, repeating the words after her. On the second day, I learned how to say, "My name is Samuel, and I am from Mexico." I practiced those sentences in front of the mirror. My voice sounded shaky, but I told them every day until I felt a little more confident. In the evenings, I made it a game to learn English from songs. I love music, so I played a popular English song on my old radio and wrote down the lyrics as best as I could. At first, I only got a few words right, but then I looked up the lyrics online and read them. Slowly, I understood the tune's meaning, and by the fifth time listening, I could sing it correctly. I laughed at myself when I realized I had been mispronouncing the words. Sometimes my younger sister, Maria, would join me. She would giggle, and we would sing together, mixing Spanish and English. It was fun, and it helped me remember the lines. 1 month passed. I did not know how much progress I made. I could not have a full conversation yet, but I could read simple paragraphs and understand a lot more than when I started. I felt proud. In fact, after 4 weeks of study, I wrote an email in English to a pen pal I found online. His name was John, and he lived in Texas. I had met him through an international student forum. I asked John simple questions. "What is your favorite food? Where do you live?" He replied politely and simply. He wrote things like, "I like pizza. I live in Houston. How are you?" It was not much, but it was a real conversation in English. When I read his replies, I jumped up and shouted, "Yes, I can do it!" Talking to John became a regular thing. Every Saturday evening, my sister and I would sit at the kitchen table with plates of rice and beans, our favorite dinner, and I would chat in English with John on the computer. I would type a question or a sentence, and as John replied, I would try to read his answers and understand. Maria often corrected my spelling or grammar as I wrote. Before this, I felt lonely when I studied. But now, even though John and I had never met face to face, he became my friend. He was kind and patient. He sometimes shared funny videos or English jokes, and I laughed even if I didn't get all of it. He was learning Spanish at the same time, so we helped each other. This exchange motivated me so much. I realized I could learn by talking with real people. In the second month, I wanted to challenge myself more. I decided to watch a movie in English. I chose an old Disney movie I already knew in Spanish. I found it on a DVD that we had. I played it with English audio and Spanish subtitles. At first, I didn't understand most of the dialogue. But after watching one scene a few times, I started to pick up some words. Then I tried again with English subtitles. It was hard to follow, but I slowed the playback speed on my DVD player. A friend in town once gave me a tip. You can slow down movies. It was a lifesaver. I rewound the scenes and repeated lines out loud. I learned expressions like, "Good morning," "Thank you very much," "Let's go," and how characters in a story communicate. By the end of the month, I could follow simple movies. I felt that every voice and every line had taught me something new. Alongside movies and songs, I put sticky notes all over my house. I wrote labels in English and Spanish. On the fridge, I put a note, refrigerator. On the door, door. On the mirror, mirror. When I walked through the house, I read them out loud. This was a silly habit, but it worked. After a few weeks, I didn't need to read them. I just knew. Every time I opened the window or turned on the light, I said the English word. It became natural. I also read short news articles in English on my phone. I subscribed to a news app meant for learners. They wrote news in simple language, maybe 2 paragraphs per story. I made it a daily ritual. One story with coffee in the morning and another before bed. The first story I read was about a basketball game. I had no idea what basketball was at first, but I looked at pictures, guessed, and then looked up the translation. The app had explanations for difficult words. Slowly, my brain got used to English sentence structure. I could even start understanding why a writer would say, I am going, versus, I go. Not everything was easy. I had days when English felt impossible. I would look at a sentence and see only confusing grammar or words. Sometimes I felt tired or bored with studying. One day, I almost skipped studying to go fishing with a friend. But at the river, I started thinking about English all the time. I dreamed in English a few nights, and I decided I must keep going. Those struggles were part of the journey. I learned to accept them and push through. By the 3rd month, I noticed something. I could now write full sentences. I practiced by writing a diary. Every night, I wrote a couple of paragraphs about my day in English. At first, I wrote short sentences like, Today, I worked in the field. I ate beans and rice. I watched a movie. After a few weeks, my sentences grew. I finished my homework in the library, and then I watched a short movie with English subtitles. I used dictionary apps to check words I didn't know. Over time, my writing became smoother. This diary helped me see how I was improving. Reading back on older entries, I could see mistakes I no longer made. I actually got excited to write because I could use new words I had learned. I also found a creative method to learn vocabulary. I wrote a story in English. I made it about myself, of course, but with a twist. In the story, I was a business student in America who had a pet parrot. Each day, the parrot spoke a new English sentence, and the student had to understand it. Writing that story forced me to use new words and phrases. It was fun and silly, but it helped me remember words because I tied them to a character and a scene. The 4th month came, and I started to prepare for an official English test. Even if the scholarship didn't demand a specific test like TOEFL, I wanted to gauge my level. So I found practice tests online. I tried one listening exercise. My hands shook when I played an audio clip of a person talking in English. The audio was longer than a minute. At first, I understood almost nothing. But I pressed replay again and again. After 5 times, I got enough to answer 2 out of 3 questions correctly. Then, I tried reading comprehension questions. Again, I read slowly, looked up meanings, and eventually I got through a text about a family picnic. My score was low, But the fact that I even attempted these test exercises made me proud. I reported my result to myself. Samuel, you are improving. Keep it up. By now, English had become part of my daily life. I set aside time at home where I only thought in English. For example, when I fed our chickens, I would name them and say things like, I am feeding the chickens, or this chicken is happy. When I walked into the market to buy vegetables, I would do it in English in my mind. I practiced shopping in English. The vendor asked me in Spanish how many tomatoes I wanted, but I answered in English in my head first. I want 4 tomatoes, please. It felt strange, but it helped me think quickly. My neighbors noticed I was becoming a little crazy. They were not used to me talking to myself or making English noises. But one of them, Rosa, who had a son living in California, asked about it one day. I told her I was studying English. She smiled and said, "That's very good. You will go far." She also offered an idea. Her son had some English children's books he no longer needed. He wrote a note and sent them to us. I now had a small stack of English picture books. Reading them felt childish and silly at 24, but it really helped. The pictures guided me through the stories. With those books, I learned new words and simple sentences like, "The cat is on the mat." All these methods were interesting and cheap or free. I never paid more than $1 for a new notebook or a cheap poster I hung on my wall with English phrases. I never spent a big sum on classes. Instead, I spent money on data for the internet, which was really worth it. The satisfaction I felt when understanding an English sentence on my own was far greater than any classroom could give me. The 5th month was tough, too. The more I learned, the more I wanted to learn. I set a higher goal. By the end of this month, I should be able to hold a short conversation with John without reading the screen. So, I practiced speaking to myself loudly, making different voices for John and me. It was a bit silly, but when John called on Skype one day, I almost answered all his questions with short phrases correctly. I had to laugh at myself. He was very excited for me. We even practiced greetings and small talk like, "Good morning, how are you?" and "Nice to meet you." Another major step, I found an English club in the city nearby. It was a small town, but one of the teachers at the high school ran an after-school English club for kids. He didn't charge money, he just loved teaching. On weekends, I traveled by bus to attend. There, I met young students who were beginners too. We would play language games, sing nursery rhymes, and the teacher would ask simple questions. I was shy at first, but after a couple of visits, I volunteered to answer some questions. I was surprised when I could correctly answer a question like, "What do you like to do in your free time?" I said, "I like to listen to music and watch movies." The kids clapped, and I felt so happy. They started calling me Mr. English as a joke, and it made me laugh. I realized I could help them too. I could answer their questions about Spanish or their homework in Spanish. Teaching something to others made me feel like I truly understood the topic. During this 5th month, I also took 1 week and only focused on speaking and listening. I turned off the subtitles on all videos. I challenged myself to watch a half-hour cartoon with no help. It was funny, and I understood maybe half. But because I was trying so hard, I felt like I was really getting fluent. Every evening, I recorded myself speaking about my day and listened. It revealed that my grammar was not perfect, but I could communicate ideas. More importantly, I could find mistakes and correct them when I caught them on recording. At this point, an old version of myself from 6 months ago would not recognize my English. And now, the final month. Time was running out. Exactly 1 month left to keep my promise. I knew I needed to review everything. So, I made a little schedule. Each day, I spent 1 hour reviewing vocabulary, 1 hour on reading, 1 hour listening, and 1 hour speaking or writing. I spent less time learning brand new grammar. Instead, I practiced what I had. I memorized some useful phrases that I might use in an interview or test, like, "Thank you for your time," or "I am excited to study abroad." I even simulated an interview. I asked my little sister to pretend to be the scholarship committee and interview me in English. She asked basic questions. Why do you want to study business? What can you contribute? I answered as best as I could. I said, I want to study business to learn how to help my community, and I can contribute hard work and a different perspective. It was not perfect, but I managed. The day came when I was supposed to send my new application. I rewrote my personal essay in English. Now I could write much more fluently. I talked about my love for business and how learning English changed me. After I finished, I read it to my parents. I was proud that I could do that in English. Then I took a deep breath and clicked send. I waited in nervousness for a week, thinking I might have to wait even longer. Meanwhile, I kept studying, reading an English magazine, and listening to news. I imagined I had already done well. One early morning, after about 9 days, I received another email, this time from the same scholarship program. My fingers were sweaty as I clicked it open. The room went silent. The message started simply, "Congratulations, Samuel." I held my breath. "We are pleased to inform you that you have been awarded our undergraduate scholarship for the United States." I could not believe my eyes. My cheeks burned with tears of joy. My younger sister jumped on me. "Estás bien, Samuel?" she asked. I could barely answer. Yes, I am okay. I got the scholarship." We celebrated quietly. My parents hugged me and cried happy tears. They were so proud. My mother just kept saying, "I knew you could do it." My father patted my back and said, "You have made yourself, your mother, and your father so proud." I looked around our small living room. Everything was simple: a wooden table, a small TV, and family pictures on the walls. But in that moment, it was the richest place in the world. I remember thinking, all those mornings and nights, all the struggles were worth it. I made lemonade out of lemons. Now, I am telling you my story from where I stand today. I am in my room with a view of the sunrise over the cornfields outside. I will soon go to the United States to study business. But first, I want to share what I learned with you, dear listeners. If you have a dream that seems far, listen to me. You can reach it. For those who struggle with English, as I did, let me sum up what I did. I learned by making it a part of every day. I used music, movies, games, flashcards for vocabulary, and anything to make learning fun. I talked to people, I wrote stories, and I practiced speaking alone. I never gave up, even when it was hard. I set small goals and celebrated each victory, even if it was just understanding a whole song or writing a paragraph. I hope my journey shows you that language learning is not impossible. It was just a matter of time, patience, and creative methods. Now, whenever I speak English, I feel new confidence. I see the world a bit differently. My final scene, I think, will be on a plane flying to America, looking out the window at clouds and smiling, because I know I earned this moment. My dream did not vanish when the scholarship was first rejected. It only grew stronger. If I had given up, I would still be in my small town, wondering what could have been. Instead, I am flying toward a new life with a full heart. To anyone reading this story, I say, believe in yourself. Use every tool you can find. Make mistakes and learn from them. Start today, because time will pass either way. And remember, if a boy from a small town in Mexico can learn a new language in 6 months, so can you. Goodbye, everyone, and wish you all the best.